Chapter 1. Carl and Sam Against the World. Carl Davis had mastered the art of invisibility, not because he lacked presence, but because he carried himself like a man who didn't need the spotlight. Tall enough to be noticed, fit enough to draw a second glance, yet quiet enough to slip through the day without leaving ripples. At the office, he was the programming guy, the one who could dismantle a bug with surgical precision but would rather drink lukewarm coffee than endure small talk at happy hour. Carl didn't mind. He had his rhythm: work, code, hike, repeat. And always, Sam. Sam was sprawled across the worn leather couch in Carl's apartment, a black and white border collie with the smug expression of an emperor surveying his kingdom. At 10 years old, Sam had perfected the art of judgmental stares and strategic licking. Carl liked to joke that Sam had more personality than half the people he knew, and more opinions than the other half. "Ready for the trail?" Carl asked, tossing his keys onto the counter. Sam lifted his head slowly, as if to say, "You're asking me if I'm ready to rule the outdoors?" Then he hopped down, nails clicking against the hardwood, tail wagging like a metronome set to enthusiastic. The trail was Carl's sanctuary. No deadlines. No blinking cursor mocking him from the screen. No endless debugging sessions. Just trees, dirt, and the occasional squirrel that Sam believed was his sworn enemy. As they walked, Carl's mind drifted to his private project, the one that kept him up at night, fueled by caffeine and stubborn determination. A series of learning games for kids with disabilities. He could see his nephew's face every time he hit a wall in the code, the frustration of wanting to play like everyone else but being locked out by design. Carl had promised himself he'd fix that. The eye-tracking module was the current beast. It worked mostly, but mostly wasn't good enough. Kids deserved better than almost fun. Carl adjusted his backpack and glanced at Sam trotting ahead, ears perked, tail high. "You know," he said aloud, "if you could code, we'd be done by now." Sam barked once, sharp and amused, as if to say, "If I could code, you'd be out of a job, buddy." Carl chuckled. That was the thing about Sam. He made the silence feel less like loneliness and more like choice. Back at the apartment, Carl brewed another pot of coffee. The smell filled the small kitchen, mingling with the faint scent of dog shampoo and old books. His laptop waited on the dining table, screen glowing with lines of code that looked like a foreign language to anyone else, but felt like poetry to him. He sat down, fingers poised over the keyboard, and for a moment, everything was still. Just Carl, Sam curled at his feet, and the hum of possibility. Carl didn't know it yet, but this quiet life, the one he had stitched together with routines and resolve, was about to unravel in the most unexpected way. Chapter 2. The girl in the lobby. Carl Davis was halfway through debugging a stubborn piece of code when the knock came. He barely looked up. Security never came to his office unless something was wrong. "Mr. Davis?" The guard's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "There's a little girl at the front desk asking for you. Says it's an emergency." Carl blinked, his fingers frozen above the keyboard. "A little girl? Emergency?" His stomach dropped. His nieces. Something happened. Without another word, he shoved his chair back and bolted for the elevator, heart pounding like a drum. The lobby was bright and sterile, all glass and chrome, but Carl barely noticed. His eyes locked on the small figure standing near the receptionist's desk, a girl, maybe 9 years old, clutching a pink backpack like it was a lifeline. A security guard hovered nearby, looking as confused as Carl felt. She wasn't one of his nieces. He knew that instantly, but there was something about her, her eyes, wide and steady, like she'd already decided something important, something that made Carl's breath hitch. He approached slowly, trying not to scare her. "Hey," he said gently. "I'm Carl Davis. Are you looking for me?" The girl nodded so fast her ponytail bounced. "Yes. Finally. You're hard to find, you know." Carl blinked. Okay. What's going on? Are you lost?" "Nope." She squared her shoulders like a tiny soldier. "I need your help. It's an emergency." Carl crouched to her level, his mind racing. "All right. Tell me what's wrong." She took a deep breath, then launched into a rapid-fire explanation that nearly knocked him over. "My school is having a father-daughter dance tonight, and I don't want to be the only kid without a dad because everyone else has one, and it's not fair and mom says she's busy, and I thought maybe you could come because you're my dad." Carl stared. Words failed him. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I'm sorry, what?" "You're my dad," she repeated, slower this time, like he was a little dense. "Mom told me your name. Carl Davis. That's you, right?" "Yes, but..." He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling heat creep up his collar. "Sweetheart, I think there's been a mistake. I don't have any kids." Her chin lifted, defiant. "You do." "Me." Carl's pulse roared in his ears. Okay, let's back up. What's your mom's name?" The girl's lips curved into a triumphant smile. "Rebecca Summers." Carl felt the world tilt. Rebecca. His Rebecca. The name hit him like a punch to the chest, dragging up memories he'd buried under years of work and coffee and quiet nights with Sam. Skydiving. Laughter. Her hand in his. And then, nothing. Just a note and silence. He swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "Rebecca Summers is your mom?" "Yes." The girl hugged her backpack tighter. "She said you were busy being smart and doing computer stuff, but I'm tired of waiting. So I came here." Carl sat back on his heels, stunned. His mind was a storm. Questions, anger, disbelief. But above all, a single thought burned bright. "I have a daughter." He cleared his throat. "What's your name?" "Lily." She said it like a challenge, daring him to deny her again. Lily, he repeated softly. His voice cracked. Okay, Lily, does your mom know you're here? Not yet. Lily's grin was pure mischief. She's gonna freak out. Carl pinched the bridge of his nose. Yeah, I think we're both freaking out. The security guard shifted awkwardly. Sir, is everything okay? Carl stood slowly, his legs shaky. I think so. I need to make a call. Lily beamed. Great. So you'll come to the dance. Carl stared at her. This bold, stubborn little human who had Rebecca's eyes, and felt something inside him shift. His life had just taken a hard left into crazy town, and there was no turning back. Chapter 3. Rebecca returns. Carl sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left in his life. Lily was in the back seat, humming to herself, swinging her legs like this was the most normal day ever. Carl's brain, meanwhile, was a scrambled mess of Rebecca Summers' daughter, 9 years old. What the hell? He pulled into the driveway of a modest house on a quiet street. Lily bounced out before he could even unbuckle. Mom, I found him, she yelled, sprinting toward the front door. Carl climbed out slowly, his pulse pounding. He wasn't sure what he expected. Anger, tears, maybe a slap. But when the door opened, all the air left his lungs. Rebecca stood there. She looked older, of course. They both did. But the moment Carl saw her, it was like college all over again. The spark in her eyes, the way her smile tilted just a little to the left. Except now, that smile was shaky, like she wasn't sure if she had the right to use it. Carl, she whispered. Rebecca. His voice was rough, like he'd swallowed gravel. He shoved his hands into his pockets because he didn't trust them not to shake. Long time. Rebecca glanced at Lily, who was grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Lily, you didn't. Oh, I did. Lily crossed her arms, proud as a general after a successful campaign. You kept saying you'd tell him. You didn't. So I did. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly, then looked back at Carl. I'm sorry. Carl let out a short laugh. Sharp, humorless. Sorry? Rebecca, I have a 9-year-old daughter I didn't know existed. You think sorry covers that? Her face crumpled, and for a second, Carl hated himself for the bite in his tone. But then the anger surged again. Why? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me? Rebecca stepped aside, gesturing for him to come in. Please, let's not do this on the porch. Carl hesitated, then followed her inside. The house was warm, lived in, family photos on the walls, a faint smell of cookies in the air. Lily vanished down the hall, humming again, leaving them alone in the living room. Rebecca perched on the edge of the couch, twisting her hands. I didn't tell you because I was scared. Scared of what? Carl's voice cracked. That I'd care? That I want to be there? Yes. Her eyes flashed, sudden fire. Carl, you were 21. You had your whole life ahead of you. If I told you, you would have dropped everything, school, your dreams, just to take care of us. And I couldn't let you do that. Carl stared at her, stunned. So you decided for me. I decided for both of us, she said softly. I thought if I disappeared, you'd keep going. You'd do great things. And you did. Carl laughed again, bitter this time. Great things? Rebecca, I've been coding myself into oblivion for years. You think that's happiness? Her eyes softened. I didn't know. I wanted to protect you. Carl sank into a chair, his head in his hands. You didn't protect me. You broke me. Silence stretched between them, heavy and raw. Then Rebecca whispered, I'm sorry, Carl. Truly. I never meant to keep her from you forever. I just kept putting it off. And then Lily got tired of waiting. Carl looked up, meeting her gaze. For a moment, the years fell away, and he saw the girl who once made him jump out of a plane just to see her smile. He saw the woman who raised his daughter alone, paycheck to paycheck, because she thought it was the right thing. And damn it, he still loved her. Chapter 4. Truths and Regrets. Carl didn't remember sitting down. One moment he was standing in Rebecca's living room, fists clenched, heart pounding. The next, he was sunk into an armchair that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Rebecca sat across from him, her hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until Carl broke it with a voice that sounded foreign even to him. 9 years, Rebecca. 9 years, and you didn't think I deserved to know? Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't look away. I thought I was doing the right thing. Carl laughed, short, sharp, bitter. The right thing? For who? For you, she said, her voice cracking. Carl, you were 21. You had plans, dreams. You were going to change the world. And if I told you I was pregnant, you would have dropped everything. You would have given up your future for us. Carl stared at her, anger and heartbreak warring inside him. You're damn right I would have. Because that's what you do when you love someone. Rebecca flinched, and Carl hated himself for the way her shoulders curled inward. But the words kept coming, raw and jagged. You didn't even give me the chance. You just vanished. I left because I couldn't handle it, she whispered. I was scared, Carl. Scared of ruining your life. Scared of being the reason you didn't become everything you were meant to be. Carl leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice low and fierce. Rebecca, you weren't ruining my life. You were my life. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of what was lost hung between them like a storm cloud. Finally, Carl dragged a hand through his hair, trying to steady himself. You raised her alone. Rebecca nodded, blinking back tears. I did my best. My parents helped, but it wasn't easy. Carl's chest tightened. He thought of Lily, bright, bold, fearless, and felt a surge of pride and guilt all at once. She's amazing, he said softly. You did that. Rebecca gave a shaky smile. She's stubborn. Like you. Carl almost smiled, but the ache in his chest was too deep. Rebecca. I missed everything. Her first steps, her first words, birthdays, school plays. I know. Her voice broke. And I'm sorry. I never meant to keep her from you forever. I just kept putting it off. And then Lily decided she was done waiting. Carl let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped for years. She's smart. She's relentless, Rebecca said, a flicker of humor in her eyes. Wonder where she gets that from. Carl shook his head, a rueful smile tugging at his lips. Rebecca, I don't know how to do this. You'll figure it out, she said softly. You always do. Carl looked at her then, really looked at her. The woman who once made him jump out of a plane just to see her laugh. The woman who raised his daughter alone because she thought it was the right thing. And damn it, he still loved her. Maybe more now than ever. He stood slowly, his voice steady for the first time. I want to be in her life. No excuses. No half measures. Rebecca nodded, tears spilling freely now. She wants that too. Carl hesitated, then added, and I want to be in yours. Rebecca's breath caught, and for a heartbeat, hope flickered in her eyes. Then Lily's voice rang out from the hallway, bright and oblivious. Mom, can Carl come to the dance? He promised. Carl laughed, really laughed this time. And Rebecca did too, the sound shaky but real. For the first time in 9 years, the storm began to break. Chapter 5. Family Matters. Carl had faced tough code bugs, impossible deadlines, and even skydiving once, but nothing prepared him for walking into his parents' house with a 9-year-old daughter he'd just met. The moment he stepped through the door, chaos erupted. Carl Davis. His mother's voice boomed from the kitchen like a battle cry. You didn't tell me you were bringing company. Before Carl could answer, Margaret, the family matriarch and undisputed queen of cookies, appeared, armed with a tray of chocolate chip goodness and a look that could bend steel. At 79, she was still sharp as a tack, and Carl had the sinking feeling she was about to interrogate him like a suspect in a crime drama. Who's this precious angel? Margaret asked, eyes twinkling as she crouched to Lily's level. Lily, never shy for long, grinned. I'm Lily, Carl's daughter. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, the sound of Carl's dignity shattering. His mother gasped. His father blinked like someone had unplugged him. His siblings, both present and loud, froze mid-bicker. And Margaret? Margaret just smiled like she'd been expecting this all along. Well, she said, handing Lily a cookie. About time. Carl groaned. Grandma, don't grandma me. Margaret snapped, straightening up with the grace of a queen. You've been moping around for years, Carl. I told your mother you needed a good woman and a dog. You got the dog. Now look, life fixed itself. Sam, as if on cue, trotted in from the backyard, tail wagging like a metronome. He froze when he saw Rebecca standing in the doorway, then turned his back dramatically and plopped down in the corner with a huff. Rebecca winced. He still hates me. Margaret chuckled. He'll get over it. Dogs forgive faster than people. Carl muttered. Not this dog. The introduction spiraled into a full-blown family reunion. His siblings bombarded him with questions. How long have you known? Why didn't you tell us? Do you need a crash course in parenting? While his mother fussed over Lily like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Lily, for her part, handled it like a pro. She accepted cookies from Margaret, high fives from Carl's brother, and compliments from his sister with the confidence of someone who knew she was the star of the show. Carl watched it all, a strange mix of pride and panic swirling in his chest. This was his family, loud, loving, relentless, and now Lily was part of it. He caught Rebecca's eye across the room. She looked overwhelmed, but there was a softness there too, like maybe this wasn't as terrifying as she'd feared. Margaret clapped her hands, commanding silence like a general. All right, enough chatter. Carl, you're taking that girl to her dance tonight. And Rebecca, she turned, pinning her with a look that could melt steel. You're staying for dinner. Rebecca blinked. Oh, no arguments, Margaret said, already marching toward the kitchen. I've got roast in the oven and enough cookies to feed an army. You two have 9 years to catch up, and I'm not letting you waste another minute. Carl sighed, but for the first time in years, the weight on his chest felt lighter. Maybe Margaret was right. Maybe life was fixing itself. Chapter 6. Building bridges. Carl had never been good at waiting. Debugging code? Sure. Hiking up a mountain trail with Sam? Absolutely. But sitting across from Rebecca in a quiet cafe, watching her stir her coffee like it held all the answers, this was torture. Rebecca looked tired, but beautiful in that way that sneaks up on you. Her hair was pulled back, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore no makeup, and Carl thought she didn't need any. She had the same spark in her eyes, though dimmed by years of responsibility. So, Carl began, his voice low, careful. Night classes? Rebecca nodded, still stirring. Digital marketing. It's practical, flexible. I can do it after work. Carl leaned forward, elbows on the table. After work? Yes. She finally looked up, meeting his gaze. I can't just quit my job, Carl. I have bills. Lily needs, Rebecca. His tone was gentle but firm. Until you finish your degree, you're not working. Her brows shot up. Excuse me. I'm serious. He held her gaze, steady as bedrock. You've been carrying everything for 9 years. It's my turn. Rebecca laughed, a short, incredulous sound. Carl, that's not how life works. I can't just let you swoop in and fix everything. Why not? He shrugged, calm but determined. You gave up your future so Lily could have one. You think I'm going to sit back and let you keep sacrificing? No, not happening. She opened her mouth, ready to argue, but Carl cut her off with a quiet intensity that made her pause. This isn't charity. It's responsibility. Mine. I should have been there. I wasn't. Let me do this. Rebecca's throat worked as she swallowed hard. Carl, I don't want to feel like I owe you. You don't. His voice softened. You gave me Lily. That's everything. For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. Then Rebecca's father cleared his throat from the next booth, because of course Margaret had insisted Carl bring backup, and Rebecca's parents had shown up too, like referees at an emotional boxing match. Rebecca, her dad said, his tone warm but firm. He's right. It's not weakness to accept help. It's smart. Rebecca shot him a look. Dad, no. He held up a hand. You've done enough alone. Let the man do what's right. Carl reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. No strings, Rebecca. Just let me help you build the life you deserve. Her eyes shimmered, and for the first time since that day in the lobby, Carl saw the girl he fell in love with, the one who dragged him out of his comfort zone and made him jump out of a plane. Only now, she was stronger, fiercer, and maybe, just maybe, ready to trust him again. Chapter 7. Dancing in Crazy Town. Carl had faced some terrifying things in his life. Skydiving with Rebecca, presenting to the board, debugging code at 3 a.m., but nothing compared to standing in the gymnasium of Lily's school, surrounded by pastel streamers, glitter balloons, and a swarm of dads who looked like they'd been training for this moment since birth. Carl tugged at his collar. Sam, I should have brought you, he muttered under his breath. His border collie would have handled this better than he was. At least Sam wouldn't be sweating through his shirt. Dad, Lily's voice cut through his panic like sunlight. She barreled toward him in a pink dress that sparkled like a disco ball, her grin wide enough to split her face. You came. Carl crouched, arms open, and Lily launched herself into them. He hugged her tight, feeling something inside him settle. Of course I came, he said softly. Wouldn't miss it. She pulled back, eyes shining. You look nice. Carl glanced down at his button-up and slacks. Thanks. I try not to look like a programmer tonight. Lily giggled. You still do. Before Carl could respond, Rebecca appeared at the edge of the crowd, her smile hesitant but warm. She wore a simple navy dress, hair loose around her shoulders. Carl's breath caught, because apparently, his heart hadn't gotten the memo about keeping things strictly parental. You made it, Rebecca said, her voice soft. Carl nodded, trying to ignore the way his pulse jumped. Wouldn't miss it. Rebecca's gaze flicked to Lily, who was already dragging Carl toward the dance floor. She's been talking about this all week. Carl smiled. So has Sam. Rebecca laughed, and for a moment, it felt like college again, easy, bright, full of possibility. Then Lily shoved him into the crowd. Come on, Dad. Dance. Carl froze. Lily, you know I don't. Move your feet, she commanded, hands on her hips like a tiny general. It's not rocket science. Carl sighed, surrendering. Fine. But if I break something, you won't, Lily said, grabbing his hands. Just follow me. And so Carl danced, or something resembling dancing. He shuffled, he swayed, he tried not to step on Lily's shoes. She laughed so hard she nearly fell over, and Carl realized something. He didn't care how ridiculous he looked, because Lily was happy, and that was everything. Halfway through the song, Rebecca joined them, her laughter mingling with Lily's. Carl caught her eye, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just the three of them. Music, laughter, and a future he hadn't dared to imagine. When the song ended, Lily threw her arms around both of them. Best dance ever, she declared. Carl smiled, breathless. Yeah, he said softly. It really is. Chapter 8. A future together. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the dishwasher and the rhythmic thump of Sam's tail against the hardwood floor. Carl stood in the doorway of Lily's room, watching her sleep. She was sprawled across the bed like a tiny conqueror, one arm wrapped around Sam, who had claimed the foot of the bed as his throne. Carl smiled. Somehow, the dog who once sulked in corners had decided Lily was his human now. He turned and found Rebecca leaning against the hallway wall, arms crossed, a faint smile tugging at her lips. You're staring, she whispered. Just trying to figure out how I got so lucky, Carl murmured. Rebecca's brow arched. Lucky? You found out you had a 9-year-old daughter because she ambushed you at work. Carl grinned. Best ambush of my life. They walked to the living room, where the glow of a single lamp softened the edges of the night. Carl sank into the couch, and Rebecca joined him, curling her legs beneath her. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was full, like the quiet after a storm. You know, Rebecca said finally, her voice low, I didn't think you'd forgive me. Carl looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who had carried the weight of 2 lives for nearly a decade. I was angry, he admitted. Still am, a little. But then I see Lily, and I get it. You did what you thought was right. Rebecca's eyes shimmered. I wanted you to have the future you dreamed of. And now, Carl said softly, I want a future with you. Her breath caught. Carl. No strings, he added quickly. Just us. Lily. Sam. Maybe a house with a yard big enough for that dog to finally retire from being emperor. Rebecca laughed, a real laugh, bright and unguarded. He'll never retire. Carl reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. Her fingers slid into his, warm and familiar, like coming home after a long winter. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. Inside, Carl felt something settle deep in his chest, a certainty he hadn't known in years. He wasn't just building games for kids anymore. He was building a life. A messy, beautiful, unpredictable life with the girl who once made him jump out of a plane and the daughter who made him believe in second chances. Sam lifted his head, gave a single approving wag, and went back to sleep. Carl squeezed Rebecca's hand. "So, what do you say?" Rebecca smiled, eyes shining. "I say, let's dance in Crazy Town." And for the first time in years, Carl felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Epilogue: Crazy Town, population 3, and 1 dog. 6 months later, Carl stood in the backyard of a house that wasn't just his anymore. It was theirs, Rebecca's laughter echoing from the kitchen, Lily's voice carrying from the swing set, and Sam sprawled in the grass like a retired emperor surveying his kingdom. The yard was bigger than Carl imagined when he first joked about it, and Sam had taken full advantage. He'd claimed every patch of sunlight as his personal throne, and Carl suspected the dog believed the move was entirely for his benefit. Carl adjusted the grill, flipping burgers while Margaret supervised from a lawn chair, a plate of cookies balanced on her lap like a crown jewel. "You did good, boy," she said, her voice warm and smug. "Took you long enough." Carl grinned. "Thanks, Grandma." Rebecca appeared at his side, sliding her hand into his like it belonged there. "You know," she teased, "I still can't believe you made me quit my job." "You didn't quit," Carl corrected. "You graduated." He kissed her temple, proud of the woman who had walked across that stage last week, diploma in hand, Lily cheering louder than anyone. Rebecca smiled, soft and sure. "And now," Carl said, glancing at Lily racing Sam across the yard, "we build the rest." The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and rose. Carl felt something settle deep inside, a peace he hadn't known in years. He had his daughter, the woman he loved, and a dog who still ruled the house with a wag and a lick. Life wasn't perfect. It was better. It was theirs. Rebecca squeezed his hand. "Crazy Town doesn't seem so crazy anymore." Carl chuckled. "That's because you're here." Sam barked once, as if to remind them who really ran things, then trotted over for a burger he absolutely wasn't supposed to have. Carl gave it to him anyway, because some rules were meant to be broken.